Our government's law, FOSTA, SESTA, in addition to pushing many sex workers back onto the street and having terrible unintended consequences on top of everything else, is some of the most first day internet kid shit law that I have ever read. I may be a Democrat, but when at the Democratic National Convention they were bragging about how shut down Backpage, I jeered. Boo! Why would I be so dissident, to all of this? Because, we can already see it. We already see the results of this travesty unfolding before us. As before this law passed, sex workers had options to use those sites to sell services where they were more able to screen their clients. But on top of everything else, the fact that this did a lot to keep women safe because they didn't need the service of pimps to sell their service on the internet. I knew the moment that it passed that it was only a matter of time before online sex work simply moved to platforms that hosted their infrastructure in foreign countries. Because the United States is blinded by American exceptionalism. It seems to think, that what its government does, has an impact on anything and everything. But what so many of our lawmakers have failed to grasp is the reality of packet technology. The DoD designed, its TCIP, TCP/IP protocol was designed to be a communications protocol that could survive a nuclear blast, wiping out most of the nodes on the network, and TCIP would find a way to continue routing those packets regardless. How this matters and how it is significant to FOSTA, Siesta, SESTA, or whatever, however you want to. How is this directly pertinent to it? Well, this means that if a site wants to continue advertising, allowing women onto their site and to their infrastructure and advertise their escort services and sex work and so prostitution, basically if they want to continue selling those services, all they have to do is move their infrastructure into some part of the world that doesn't have a problem with such a website existing and then host it there. And the packets will route to the United States as though FOSTA Siesta never passed at all. Our government has failed utterly to grasp the reality of TCP packet technology, and on top, because the United States has not begun to realize its own powerlessness. TCP IP technology, basically renders the U.S. government and the laws that it passes to regulate internet commerce powerless. They are completely impotent, feckless, and unable, even with infinite force and the world's most powerful military, to do shit to regulate commerce on the internet. They are truly powerless. And the worst part, I guess, about this is that your Congress critters are elected by technologically incompetent citizens who probably don't even own a computer and don't go online at all, so they don't know why these laws will fail in the most basic terms. they're unable to understand the technological implications of our now global village because of the fact that the internet is the internet. Those packets can, the number of IP addresses at this point via IPv6 technology is greater than the number of atoms in the fucking universe. There are more ways to route around any obstruction censorship than the number of stars or the atoms in those stars. You just don't understand anymore. Our government doesn't understand and grasp it. The internet has been designed from the ground up to be censorship resistant. Even a nuclear blast on the network that took out most of the nodes would not prevent packets from routing. TCP IP technology was designed to degrade gracefully and everything. And so lawmakers passing a law that says, that Backpage cannot, sell or advertise, you know, uh, services, sex workers' services is not such a law is not likely to succeed for the simple reason that packets from foreign countries and websites in foreign countries route to the United States as though they are hosted in our own backyard. And so after FOSTA, SIESTA, all a sex worker would have to do is work with a service provider that hosted their advertising services overseas. And their infrastructure in countries beyond the grasp of authorities within the United States. And then, the Johns that sign up for the service can thumb their nose at our federal government who can't do anything about it. Our government has ultimately been elected by technologically incompetent people and is equally technologically incompetent. The blind are leading the blind, and so they don't see it. They are fundamentally incapable of grasping their own powerlessness and the futility of such efforts.